Hi, this is Joel Johnson. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Before we get started on our topic today, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also click on the bell so that you get notified when we upload new videos and new content. So, grandkids, financial planning for grandkids. We're going to talk about financial planning for grandkids, but this is going to sort of tie into also what grandparents can do for grandkids. We're going to talk about some of the wisdom that grandparents can impart to grandkids, because as we all know, when those grandkids get to a certain age, they're not listening to their parents anymore, but they sure will listen to you. There's a certain amount of wisdom that you are perceived to have and that you probably have, and those grandkids will listen to you. So you make a great teacher if you've got grandkids. You carry automatic, in their mind, assumed credibility. And more importantly than that, you have lived through a lot of financial ups and downs. I don't care if you're wealthy, if you're really behind the eight ball and you haven't saved enough money, or if you're right in the middle. You have amazing financial lessons that you have learned, whether yourselves or observed other people throughout your life, that you can impart to those grandkids. So when you're imparting wisdom, don't just give the technical side of things. Make sure you're telling stories. Preferably stories about yourself. They will remember that. You'll be surprised at how much they remember it. You know, my mom and dad have been gone now for a little while. They've passed away, but I remember when my kids are older, but when my kids were in their younger years, kind of in that, late single digit ages to, the teenage years, my dad and mom would tell them things and they still remember that today. 10 or 15 years later, I hear them repeating those things today. So use that leverage that you have. Use that perception of just a very wise person that you have with your grandkids to teach them different things. Basic savings. Let's talk about basic savings and not borrowing. Some of the things that, again, this wisdom you can impart to those grandkids. When we brought up our kids, we made them all work. In the beginning, they all worked in my company as we were growing as a company. And I remember one of my kids once made the mistake of saying, "Oh, we're going to work at the sweatshop," which was a big, beautiful Class A office space and air conditioning. So Wendy and I decided the next work he's going to go work at the pizza shop and wash dishes and show him what a sweatshop really was. But, I say that jokingly, obviously, but the important thing is we made all our kids work and we taught them to save money. And did we teach them to save money, or did my dad, their grandfather, teach them to save money? Because again, they would listen to my father a lot quicker than they would listen to me. So one of the things you can teach your grandkids is, hey, save money, save it right off the top. You've heard my rule of thumb before. I like to say save 10 to 20%. If they can start that when they're young, that will carry out throughout their lives. And then, of course, don't borrow money. And of course, when they're younger, they don't really have the ability to borrow money. But if you talk to them about the dangers of borrowing money, getting in over your head, being a slave to debt that you have, whether it's car payments or maybe house payments that are a little too high. Maybe they bought houses that, were too much for them and so on. And obviously, again, when they're younger, they're not in that position, but they might remember that wisdom. Share with your grandkids your opinion on education. Talk them through, have an interactive discussion about college, about trade school, about having marketable skills and so on. Again, they might be at that age where they're starting to lose a little interest in school, and it's important that you, as a grandparent, talk to them about education. Now, let me talk a little bit about what you can do when it comes to college education, because there's a lot of things that people don't know where they can help out those grandkids. And we get this question all the time from our clients. Hey, my grandkids are getting near college age, or maybe they're 10 years old, and I want to help save. I want to save money for my grandkids' college education. What's the best way to do it? One of the great ways to do it is something called a 529 plan, which many of you have heard of. A 529 plan is simply an investment program, typically with mutual funds in it. You can put money into that, and it grows tax-free. And all that growth, if it's used for college, if it's followed the rules and it's used for higher education, that can be books, it can be tuition, it can be lodging, it can be dorm rooms and so on, that is tax deductible when it comes out. So if you put in $10,000 and it grows to $20,000, you never have to pay taxes on that extra $10,000 of profit as long as it goes to college education. So 529s are a great way to save for college. There are other types of savings. I don't prefer them as much. There's something called a Coverdell IRA where you can put money away for a child or grandchild. There's something called custodial accounts that many of you have heard of, where you put money in and it's in the name of the child, but you control that as the custodian. But the biggest winner, I think, for saving for college education is that 529 plan. Now, there's another loophole around the gift tax rules that a lot of people don't know. Many of you know that you can gift a certain amount to people outside of your spouse if you're married, and with that amount that you can gift, you don't have to pay any gift taxes on it. And typically it's $15,000 or so that you can gift out per year. However, that does not apply to college tuition. If you write the check to a college, even if it's, let's say, $50,000 to keep it simple, you don't have to pay any gift tax even though you gave away more than $15,000. So there's an exception to gift taxing if you pay college tuition directly. You can't give the money to the child, but you can pay college tuition directly. So share with your grandkids about the importance of education. Share with them the personal stories, which I think, again, as you know, are so important. And of course, think about the ways, if you choose to, that you can help in the most tax-efficient way and the most growth-oriented way to help pay for that college education. Now let's talk about legacy. What kind of a legacy can you leave your grandkids, whether it's now while you're still alive or whether it's later? Let's talk about right now. One of the things that I think, and my mother-in-law did this, when each of the kids graduated from college, she gave them a check for $10,000. Now here's the key. She didn't actually give them the check. She gave me the check, and we opened an account and put it in their name, and I put it in some investments, and I just told them, hey, Grandma gave you this money, Grandma Sue gave you this money because you graduated from college. She's going to do this for each of your siblings, and I put it in an account, and it's going to grow. And you want to try to leave this money alone as long as possible. It's not for spending, but if you ever need a down payment on a home or something like that, it goes towards that. And that was just a wonderful gesture that she made to our kids, and that's something you can do for your grandkids. Give them a little bit of a head start. And there's a number of ways you can do this. You can do, again, what I did when my mother-in-law gave that money to my children was we set up an investment account, just simply a brokerage account, and we bought mutual funds inside that account. She actually can set up a Roth IRA for kids if they have earned income. She can set up a Roth IRA for them. She could do that. Now the key with the Roth is, as you know, that money grows tax-free and it comes out tax-free, but they're supposed to leave that money alone until they're 59 and a half. So again, a number of different things you could do. You could buy them a CD, which when interest rates are high, CDs are kind of popular. I'm not a big fan of CDs for long-term savings, but that's certainly an option if you like CDs or if you like having money at the bank. So mutual funds, stocks, bonds. One of the things that I think is really neat is if you know of companies that they know of also, buying them a few shares of stock can teach them a lot about how companies work, how ownership in companies work, because when you own a share of stock, as you know, you own a piece of that company. So, whether it's Disney or Coca-Cola or Facebook or Google, it's just pick some company that they would know of, and you can teach them not only about how ownership in a company can grow wealth over the long term, but also how business works. Maybe you even show them, like I've done with my kids, even though they didn't pay a ton of attention, how to read an annual report. So whether it's our annual report from a big bank like JP Morgan Chase or Coca-Cola or like I said, Disney, you show them that annual report and say, hey, this is how business works. Some of you might not understand everything that's in those annual reports, but again, something you can do to help jumpstart their long-term savings. When my kids graduated college and they got their first jobs, most of them had access to a 401k, or my son that's in the Marine Corps had access to what's called the Thrift Savings Plan, which is basically the government's version of a 401k. And I sat down with them, and I won't say I forced them, but they probably felt like they were forced to sign up to put away 15% of their income in those plans, and then I helped them choose the mutual funds and told them about the dangers of switching funds around too much. But the bottom line is I help them get started, and that's something you can do. And you can also, maybe for every dollar they put in, so just a suggestion, but maybe for every dollar they put into their 401k, you give them half, maybe 50 cents towards their own personal use. Some of you that are better, more well off, maybe you set up a trust fund for your grandkids, and maybe that trust fund is supposed to last forever or last throughout their lives, and maybe they don't get all the money until they're 45 or 50 years old or whatever. But in the meantime, you could instruct the trustee, and that trustee might be you, to send them a stipend every month. Maybe it's $500 a month, maybe it's $1,000 a month. One of the other ways you can help them is you can help them make a down payment on a home. Now, I'm mentioning a lot of things, and I'm not telling you to do one of these or not do one of these things. I'm just giving you suggestions on ways that you can help your grandkids get a fresh start and also to teach them about money. I love the idea of buying a few shares of stock in a company that they understand. They will then understand how wealth is really built in the United States, which is through ownership of businesses. And some of us don't have the opportunity to directly own a business, but we all have the opportunity to buy a few shares of stock in a company that we understand. Almost everybody has an iPhone. If I think about in our office, we have 45, 46 employees in our office. My guess is all of them have a phone, and probably 45 out of the 46 have an iPhone. Apple is a great company to buy a few shares of stock in, and they will understand, oh, now I own this company that makes this stuff that me and all my friends use. So just an example of that, but you can really teach them about business that way. And again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, I think the most important thing that you can impart on your grandkids is that incentive to save money. And maybe you say, hey, if you save 10% off the top of your paycheck or 15% off the top of your paycheck, I'll match a little bit of it. So all we want to do is we want to help our grandkids get a head start, and these are some of the ways that you can help your grandkids. Last thing I want to talk about, and I mentioned at the beginning of this topic, legacy. Just for a few minutes, I want to talk about the legacy that you can leave and that we're trying to leave for our children and our grandchildren. We've been really blessed as people that have lived way below our means, Wendy and I, and we've always saved a lot of money, and it ends up that we have more money than we need for retirement. So we've set up trusts for our kids and for our grandkids. Now, we only have one grandchild so far, but we anticipate having more. And so we've got trusts set up for our kids that they can get some income off of in the future, and our grandkids can get some income off of. And some of our money will go to charity, but this is also another great way for you to leave a legacy. I think if you do those types of things, if you do that type of planning, you should communicate with your kids and with your grandkids the values behind that planning. It's not about the planning, it's not about the trust, it's not about the gifting, it's the values that you want to impart to them, because there may come a time in life where either they have a lot of friends that are not financially irresponsible, maybe even your kids were not the best financial stewards of their money, and you want to impart to your grandkids that wisdom and those values that you have. So in this segment, we've talked about a few different ideas that you can not only impart, like I said earlier, your wisdom and your values to your grandkids, but maybe how to help save for college education, maybe how to get them started working and saving money off of their paycheck. But it's so important, in my opinion, that you help teach those lessons to grandkids and give them practical ways to save, maybe incentivize their savings, and then when it comes to that legacy, share your values. Thanks for watching this YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe and click on the bell so that you get notified when we load up extra content.